Welcome to Toastmasters Time, the show that has everybody talking. My name is Knox, and I'll be your host for this edition of Toastmaster Time. Now, like at a regular Toastmasters meeting, we will have 3 prepared speeches tonight, followed by evaluations to help the speakers improve their speaking. Now, the speakers will be speaking from 1 or 2 areas, either using the Competent Communications Manual or from Pathways, our new online platform. Let's get right to the show. And our first speaker tonight is Trevor Justice. Good evening, Trevor.
Hey, Lewis. How are you doing?
How are you, Trevor?
I'm good.
Well, Trevor, you know, you and I know each other even before Toastmasters, but we joined the Toastmasters Club together, didn't we?
We did.
When was that?
2009, I believe.
I think that's right. Now, what clubs are you involved in today?
Rockridge Toastmasters and Heart to Heart Toastmasters.
Now, how long have you been a member of Heart to Heart?
I just joined Heart to Heart a few months ago. I've been in Rockridge for going on 2 years.
Now, what originally brought you into Toastmasters?
I was inspired by a woman named Jana Stanfield. Jana is someone that gives keynote concerts where she sings her original songs and also tells inspirational stories, even gets people dancing at the conferences. I wanted to follow in her footsteps, and she said, well, you better join Toastmasters and get involved with speaking.
Well, and I also know that you're a very good singer.
Thank you.
Will you be singing for us tonight?
If you're lucky.
Okay. So tell us about your speech tonight.
I'm self-employed, and I know a lot of self-employed people do everything themselves. Mm-hmm. They're afraid to delegate, but they need to delegate, otherwise they're never going to grow. So I talk to self-employed people about the 3 reasons why they're afraid to delegate and why they need to get over it.
Well, that sounds exciting. Now, are you ready to give your speech?
Sure.
All right. Well, while you're prepared, I'm going to tell the audience about your goals and objectives for the night. Okay?
Sure.
All right. So Trevor will be speaking from the platform for Pathways. His goals and objectives tonight are to practice using vocal variety to enhance his speech and effectively use pitch, tone, volume, and pace to bring his speech to life. Trevor Justice, delegate your grunt work. Delegate your grunt work, Trevor Justice.
Are you self-employed like me? Are you still wearing the pajamas you woke up in this morning? Well, that's one advantage of being self-employed. You can also set your own hours, take long vacations, and if you don't wear pants, it's not creepy, unless you happen to mention it. But we've got a lot of grunt work that doesn't produce revenue, like marketing, bookkeeping, administrative work. That's why smart business owners hire assistants. Did you realize that you can hire an assistant for $20 an hour or less, even here in the San Francisco Bay Area? But Trevor, I can't afford to hire help. I can barely afford the tanning salon. Well, I'm here to tell you, if your time is worth $50 an hour or more, you can't afford not to hire help, and I'll prove it. I want you to imagine that this is your $20, and you're at work right now. You've got 2 options. Option number 1, you can keep this $20 and spend the next hour doing your own grunt work. Or option 2, you can pay this $20 to an assistant, have her do your grunt work, and you can earn this $50 doing money-making activities. No, legal money-making activities. Now, given that choice, do you know any sane person who would give up $50 to keep 20? No? Well, then why are you doing grunt work you could be delegating? If you use the time you save to produce revenue, won't you make back more than you spend? That's a positive return on your investment. So are you on board now to hire an assistant? If not, I know why. There are 3 reasons why self-employed people resist hiring help. But to make this less boring, I'd like to address these reasons with a mini musical featuring the music of Lady Gaga, Burl Ives and Rachel Platten. First, the Lady Gaga caution song. I'm afraid it's risky. What if I spend more than I make back in new money? There is no guarantee. Okay, so you're afraid you might not make back what you spend. But it's only risky if you waste your newfound time watching daytime soap operas. If you're disciplined with your time and use it to produce revenue, you're going to come out ahead. Second, the Burl Ives budget song. I don't have the money. I spend all I earned. The cost of living's not funny, and I'm feeling the burn. Can anyone relate? Well, let me ask you a question. Do you sew all your own clothes? Grow all your own food? Perform your own brain surgery? No? Well, then you're already paying for other people's labor. Although, if you did perform your own brain surgery, that might explain why you prefer doing your own grunt work. It's about your priorities. If you eat at nice restaurants, wear nice clothing, or visit tanning salons, you've got money. You're just spending it on things that have no financial return. Hiring an assistant will free up your time so you can make more money. Finally, the Rachel Platten control song. I'm a control freak. I want it done right. I don't trust anyone but me. What if they screw up, make bad decisions? I'll have to do it all again for free. Well, here's how to delegate and make sure it's done right. First, type out step-by-step instructions for your routines. Next, when you interview, ask candidates to bring you samples of their prior work. Check their references. Have they been indicted by the U.S. Special Counsel? Well, an indictment is not a conviction. No red flags? Then give them a trial project. Do they follow your instructions? Use spell check? Cover for you when the IRS calls? Look, if you keep letting grunt work fill up the hours you could have spent producing revenue, how will you ever get ahead? Life is short, and the time you waste on grunt work is time you will never recoup. Do you think Bill Gates, Sheryl Sandberg, or Elon Musk would be where they are today if they hadn't hired other people? Every entrepreneur was once in your shoes. They had to choose, play it safe or take a chance. So they took a chance to create bigger incomes and better lives. That's what separates people who settle from people we admire, people who inspire. Which kind of person do you want to be?
Wow, that was an excellent speech. Every entrepreneur has to figure out a way to get his or her work done. What I loved about Trevor's speech is that he used humor to talk about something that was very, very important. His humor made us laugh, but what he was teaching us was very important. Do we want to spend $50 to make $20, or is it better to spend $20 to make $50? I think that that speech will work in any environment, and I know that there are entrepreneurs out there who will be very excited to hear Trevor's speech. Without any further ado, let me go to our next guest who knows something about humorous speeches. I'd like to introduce you to Camille Miller. Good afternoon.
Hi, how's it going?
How are you?
I'm doing great, man.
So what did you think about that humorous speech?
I thought it was a very good speech. It's a speech with a lesson attached to it, something you can always apply to your own life.
Something like with your club. Tell us about your club.
Well, I belong to Laugh Lovers, which meets alternate Sundays, and we strive to add humor to our speeches so that people remember actually what we said.
Now, how long have you been a part of Laugh Lovers?
I've been there for about 1.5 years, and I really enjoy it.
Okay, and what brought you to Laugh Lovers?
I needed a date. I needed to know how to talk to men, so I learned how to talk on my feet, and now I'm learning how to add humor as well.
Well, after being there for a year and a half, I suspect that your date book is full.
It really isn't. I'm open this Saturday, so if you'd like to join me for dinner, that'd be great.
I think I'll check my calendar. Are you ready to give your speech?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, why don't you take a few moments to prepare, and while you're doing so, I'll tell the audience something about Toastmasters International.
Okay,
All
thanks.
Right? Toastmasters International is an organization that's been around since the 1920s. It started in the United States, but now it's grown to over 10,000 different clubs all over the country and all over the world. Its primary responsibility is to do one thing, to help people get over their fear of speaking. Last told, it is the #1 fear that most people have, which is to stand in front of an audience and give a speech. So if you want to learn how to speak without being afraid, go to Toastmasters TV. Tonight, we're going to hear from Camille Miller. Her speech is entitled, Not What I Expected. Not What I Expected, Camille Miller.
I never considered myself to be a prejudiced person. I suffered enough of it to be disgusted with the idea that one person is superior to another. We're all made in the image of God with different talents and abilities. We all bring something special to the world. At least, that's what I believed until I was confronted with my own heart. By the time I finished high school, I suffered unjust accusations, running around in my underwear trying to find clothes that were hidden in some dark part of the locker room, and, like many others, the crushing blows of name-calling and various other assaults against the psyche. After high school, I decided to move across the country to go to college at Howard University in Washington, D.C. Howard is one of the leading black universities. I wanted to know what it felt like to be around a lot of black people. I also thought that I would escape prejudice. Oddly enough, I was the black girl from the hick town, and I still didn't fit in. My clothes were different, my taste in music was different, and I didn't know how to dance. My roommate, Bernadette, taught me a few moves, but rest assured, you'll never find me on Dancing with the Stars. I was dismayed to find prejudice at Howard, too. I guess prejudice can live anywhere where people are. Through a series of events, I ended up with a job at the county in the Bay Area. When you get a job with the county, you get to choose your own health insurance. Being the frugal person that I am, I chose county insurance. I was matched with a nurse practitioner who was also a runner and laughed at my jokes. We were a perfect match. Earlier this year, she left for another job. I was heartbroken. That meant that I was going to be matched with another doctor. Not long after that, I got a letter in the mail from the county, and I ripped it open. My eyes scanned down to the middle of the page, only to see that my new doctor had a long Middle Eastern name that I could not sound out or pronounce. My tongue couldn't wrap around the arrangements of vowels and consonants. I said to myself, I ain't going to see her. I made all my appointments at a time when my primary doctor was not available. A few months after that, I got another letter from the county urging me to make an appointment with my primary doctor. Again, I said, I ain't going to see her. We have nothing in common, and I can't even pronounce her name. Finally, I got this last letter from the county stating that an appointment was made for me with my primary doctor. Oh, I could just feel my blood boil and my blood pressure going up. My first instinct was to cancel that appointment. But then I had to ask myself, why was I so adamant at avoiding an appointment with her? At that moment, this voice inside me spoke up. Excuse me, I think you might be prejudiced. What? I said to myself, literally. Again, the voice. Excuse me, you only hate the prejudice that you've experienced. You don't like what you don't understand and you're making no effort to change it. Ouch. Not only was I prejudiced, I was a hypocrite. Realizing the error of my ways, I went to that appointment. I was really nervous when they put me in the room and visibly sweating. And this time, it wasn't from a hot flash. After about 15 minutes, there was a small knock at the door, and the doctor entered. She was nothing like what I expected. Her bright blue skirt perfectly hugged her hourglass figure. Her light brown hair danced around her face, and her eyes, they were dandelion green. She said, "Good, you're black. I love black people. I used to work in Oakland, and all my friends are black." I was thinking to myself, she probably has more black friends than I do. She asked me why I came in, and I told her I had IBS, irritable black syndrome. We laughed and hit it off famously. They say that you can't judge a book by its cover, but this time, the cover was the one I had over my own heart. I couldn't see my own prejudice until it sat in my lap and stared me in my face. The older I get, the more I have to learn about myself and other people. Today, I make all of my appointments with my primary doctor, and yes, I even learned to pronounce her name.
Wow, that was another powerful speech. Another speech that also used humor to make its point. And what a timely speech for a time like this. Joining me is Trevor Justice, who now will give an evaluation of Camille's speech. Trevor, what did you think?
Wow, Camille was really vulnerable in sharing something that I know a lot of people would feel afraid to share on camera, which is that she herself discovered a prejudice. I felt a visceral reaction. There were moments in her stories where she was so specific, talking about how she was visibly sweating, waiting for this doctor that she hadn't met yet. And I felt really moved by her speech and grateful that she was willing to be so vulnerable.
I agree, Trevor. I think it was a great speech. And you know, vulnerability is something that's so powerful because it brings us all into the speech and it makes us look within and see where the speech will affect us in our own personal life. Thank you for that, Trevor. I'd now like to introduce our third speaker of the evening, Baaaaahbra Gross. Good evening, Baaaaahbra.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm great.
So Baaaaahbra, tell me, what club are you associated with and how long have you been there?
Heart to Heart for 3 months.
Okay. Now, Heart to Heart is a speaking group that meets once a month but has a lot of powerful speakers. Is that right?
That's correct.
And how long have you been a part of that club?
3 months.
You've been there 3 months. What have you learned in those 3 months?
Well, a friend invited me, and I was touched by the camaraderie within the group and the feedback that you get, the very positive feedback that you get on your evaluations. And it encourages people to get up and speak more and do the table topics.
And it leads you to Toastmasters time.
That's right.
What are you going to be speaking about tonight?
I'm going to be speaking about miscommunication and unexpected events.
Miscommunication and unexpected events. Are you ready to give that speech?
I am.
All right, we'll take a moment to prepare while I talk to people about what your goals and objectives are. And I think you're using the Pathways platform, is that correct?
I am.
Okay. Well, Pathways platform is a platform that was introduced to Toastmasters through District 57. It's a way of maintaining our speeches online as opposed to the prior system that used manuals. Now, Baaaaahbra tonight will be talking about humorous adventures using various persuasive speech delivered to persuade us of something. So without any further ado, Barbara Gross, The Humorous Adventures of Baaaaahbra. The Humorous Adventures with Barbara Gross.
Hello, my name is Baaaaahbra Gross, and I am a motivational humorist as well as a best-selling author of The Humorous Adventures with Baaaaahbra. I believe in most situations we have a choice on how we react to situations, whether we laugh or cry, and I choose to laugh. As I travel around the country telling my stories, people ask me, why do all these funny things keep happening to you? And I reply, if you listen carefully, they may not have been that funny at the time, but in hindsight, they're hysterical. So I hope through my stories that I will give you some techniques so you will learn how to avoid communication breakdown as well as embrace the challenges of unexpected events. Miscommunication. Has anybody ever said something that was miscommunicated? I know I have. The minute I open my mouth, people say, "Where are you from?" Okay, I agree. I might have a slight Boston accent. All right, it's a little more than slight. Actually, to get rid of it, I think I need a major operation to have surgery to have it removed. So how you'll really hear the accent is any word that has an AR, I will pronounce like AH. And the reason my accent is so strong is I grew up 5 minutes north of Boston. I think we've all heard this saying, park the car in Harvard Yard. I went to the University of Massachusetts. That is 2 hours west of Boston. They do not have an accent. I was student teaching these 3rd and 4th graders, and the spelling word was car. They said, "What's that?" I knew very well they knew what that word was, so I replied, "It's another word for automobile, and if you don't get it right, it's not my problem." Another time, I wanted to order a pizza on the phone. They said, "What's your name?" I said, "Barbara." They said, "What?" I said, "Barbara." They said, I don't understand you. I said, "Forget it, Cindy, I'll be there." You know, sometimes it's not as important to concentrate on exactly what was said as long as you've communicated your message to get the correct end result. Now, I am the youngest of my whole family. So once I was living away at college, my parents were free to retire to a warmer climate. If you're from New England, you retire in Florida. So that's where they went. They go to Florida, and it was too humid for my parents. So I said to my father, "Go to California, go to California." So they go to California, and they told me they found a great place to live called La Jolla. I thought, okay, great. So when I graduated, I wanted to check out La Jolla, and sure enough, I loved it. Come to find out, the way you're supposed to pronounce that city is La Jolla. Well, who knew? I went to a Mexican restaurant. I looked at the menu. I asked the waiter, "What are these things, japerinos?" He said, "Jalapenos." Well, thank goodness I asked. I think I saved myself from a mouthful of fire. Now, another time this man asked me if I played tennis. I replied, "Well, I'm not that good, but I have great effort." And his face does this face contortion. Well, I know what I said, and it didn't deserve a face contortion, so I'm used to this. I asked him, "So what do you think I just said to you?" And he thought I said, "I'm not that good, but I have a great outfit." That would have been the last thing I would have said to him. So a tip is if you have a conversation with somebody that has a funny face on, ask them to repeat what they heard. Not only is it better to communicate that way, but you might have fun in the process. I went to a club that was very noisy. You could hardly hear yourself talk. To make matters worse, I was with a friend that had a thick Scottish accent, and she had to deal with my Boston accent. I came up with an idea. I got a napkin. I wrote a note to her, and I passed it to her. She wrote a note back, passed it back to me. It wasn't until later on we realized that everybody around us thought we were deaf. But you know, visual aids are really important with communication, even napkins. So, in closing, I hope that you might be able to employ some of my techniques so you can avoid communication breakdown and embrace unexpected events with laughter and joy. Thank you.
Wow. Humorous Adventures with Baaaaahbra. Trevor, what did you think about Barbara's speech?
I loved how she gave tips for avoiding miscommunications. For example, if someone looks confused, then ask them what they heard, or use visual aids. One thing I also liked is that her examples became, how should I say, well, funnier as she progressed, and also she elaborated a lot about the first example with the children who were like, "What's a car?" And then elaborated about the next example. But as she went on, it was kind of a bucket brigade feeling where the examples came faster and became funnier.
Right. I wholeheartedly agree. What a great night of speeches tonight. Now, what's interesting to me is I noticed that all three speeches, yours included, used humor to get to the point. What were your observations on the night's speeches?
Camille surprised me because she is from the club called Laugh Lovers, and her speech was actually very serious. It had some humor that I liked, but it's the one that got me the most, that made me feel my heart the most. But Baaaaahbra's speech was very funny, and, well, I don't know if I should comment on my own speech. I'll let you do that.
Well, your speech certainly gave great advice to people who are entrepreneurs, but it did it in a way that was very humorous. I will always remember that I will never spend $50 to make 20. So I appreciate that. I also appreciated what you appreciated, which is Camille's speech was so powerful because the subject matter is one that we're all dealing with in our society today. I like the fact that she used humor to present it, and she was also very, very vulnerable. Well, that's all the time we have for tonight. Thank you for joining Toastmasters Time. We tape our show in the San Francisco Bay Area. If you would like more information about our show, please contact us at toastmasterstime.org. We're sponsored by District 57 of Toastmasters. For more information, you can find out on d57tm.org. That's d57tm.org. If you would like more information on Toastmasters International, I invite you to check out the website at toastmasters.org. We appreciate all the wonderful staff and volunteers at the Media Center that made our program a success. Thank you again to our guest speakers, Trevor Justice, Camille Miller, and Baaaaahbra Gross. From all of us at Toastmasters Time, I'm Louis Knox, and I invite you to join Toastmasters and keep talking.